What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and two great things. Count it, 1, 2 great things have happened in the past couple of days. One, I got my hair cut. The bangs were a little long, the back needed to be trimmed. Got that taken care of. Two, the Apple iPad 2 is out. AT&T, Verizon, Best Buy, you name it. If it's in stock, which they're actually pretty hard to come by right now, you can grab an iPad 2 starting at $499. It's really more of an evolutionary upgrade to the original iPad. You have your front-facing camera, your rear-facing camera, but there are some definite benefits in this device, and it is even more magical and revolutionary. I just had to throw that in somewhere. Now that it's thinner and a little bit lighter. Is this the tablet to have, or have they kind of fallen behind with iOS? Is the Motorola Zoom the one to get? We're going to find out in the full review, which starts right now. Magical and revolutionary, take two. Here's the Apple iPad 2. It came out on Friday for a base model price of $499.99, and then of course you have your carrier versions as well with some different price points, 16, 32, and 64 gigabytes, and you can get that in Wi-Fi equipped version, or you can get it at AT&T or Verizon with that respective carrier's technology installed. The only difference to the design is with like the original iPad, you have a little black spot here for the cellular antennas. Otherwise, design relatively, it's more of an evolutionary upgrade than it is a revolutionary upgrade. You can see that it's been trimmed back, it's much smaller, and then you can see the sides are obviously thinner as well, especially when you look at it from an angle like this. You'll see the added speaker down here. When you look at it at an angle like this, unfortunately I don't have an original iPad to compare it to, but you look at the original, or you think about the original and you look at this, you can see that at the bevel it's a little bit different. But anyway, on top you get your 3.5mm headphone jack, power button over here, your volume rocker, and then your switch to toggle between sound on and sound off. And then of course I'm sure you're loving that picture in the background. That is yours truly. You have your cameras as well, something new to the iPad line. You have cameras. You have the one here on the rear. No flash, and picture quality isn't that great, but we'll get into that in a little bit. No flash though. Capable of shooting HD video, but still picture quality, not the best in the world. And then you have the one that's kind of hard to see on the camera, but you have one here in the center for FaceTime. FaceTime is pre-installed. So you'll notice a couple of different things out of the box with this one. You'll see FaceTime, you'll see photo booth, you'll obviously see camera, just some differences from the original iPad, since the original iPad obviously didn't have those things. It is running iOS 4.3, and it does have the usual Apple one button down there in the center of the bottom part of the tablet. So there's what the keyboard looks like. Nothing different there. Keyboard's very similar, and you'll notice a lot of similarities. I think for me, when I pulled this out of the box, the first iPad came out, and it really was a revolutionary product. I'm not going to say magical and revolutionary, but it was a revolutionary product because tablets weren't big at the time, or hadn't really taken off, and it was a big thing. It was a step forward for Apple. One small step for Apple, one giant. You get the idea. Anyway, with this one though, there are several tablet options either out on the market or coming within the next 6 months, and I feel like they could have stepped up their game a little bit more. And for me, the first thing I noticed out of the box, the display. The display to me, is just not a huge, well actually it isn't an upgrade, but still just looking at it, when the original iPad came out versus looking at it now where there are a couple of different options available and there are more options coming, I just am even, less impressed by the display. And to me it's noticeable now. It's kind of like one of those things when you feed a dog steak and you feed a dog steak for a month and then you go back to feeding it dog food, it wants steak. So we've gotten used to these Retina displays and QHD displays and Super AMOLED displays, and now when faced with something like this, it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to get back used to, but it is to me. I mean, it's a grainy, it's noticeably grainy, but it is still 9.7 inches as well. Get back to what I was saying, the weight, just 1.33 pounds, very lightweight, and easy to grip, even though despite those beveled edges, I thought it was going to be much thinner than it actually is, and that's a good thing because I can actually hold on to it. It does have a 1 gigahertz dual-core processor. It's an Apple A5 chip, and it shows that they really want to compete with the Motorola Zoom, the Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1, some of the other stuff that's coming out in the next few months. So it is definitely ready to compete with those other tablets, at least on the speed front. But let's take a look at some of the applications because, some of you that have iPads, you're used to these applications. Some that are coming from iPhones or maybe some of the other tablets aren't. But let's take a look at some of those and see what's changed, if anything. Let's start out by looking at Mail, actually. We'll go to the inbox. And you'll see here, obviously it's taking advantage of this 9.7-inch display. Here's Mail, and you look at it on an iPhone and you look at it on the iPad, two totally different experiences. You see I can bring up bam, I can bring up the inbox right there. I can scroll through all of the messages that I have. I click on one. We'll go to Gmail team, for example. I can scroll back up here and access those very easily. Still very responsive, pinch to zoom, extremely responsive, or I can scroll down that way. So just a little bit of a different setup, and then of course your reply, your write, all of those different options are up top. And then when you scroll it over into landscape mode from portrait mode, you have that over on the side. So, again, tablet options. Some of you haven't seen what it looks like on a tablet. It'll take advantage of that full 9.7 or 10.1 inch display. Here's what it looks like. Again, I happen to like the landscape layout a little bit better, but I can go down here, click, can respond, and this is very uncharacteristic of iOS on an actual phone like the iPhone. You see the pop-out menu here, reply, bring it up, kind of bring up a separate reply. Hello, send, and so there it goes. It's sent off, and it's going to send me a reply email saying that address doesn't exist. But you get the idea. Very easy in Gmail. Let's take a look at contacts as well. No contacts in here at the moment. Let's add one. We'll throw in. Well, let's throw in me. Throw in Aaron Baker, and you know where I work. Phone dog. Mobile phone number 555-8567-5309. You can see, so very similar, minus the whole book design, it's very similar to the layout of, a typical iOS phone application. The phone book changes it up a little bit, but the actual options are exactly the same. Don't let it fool you. So we'll put in a home address. Oh man. Tweety at gmail.com. So you can see that's what it looks like. When we're done, we'll hit done, and there it is, Aaron Baker. Over on the right side, names on the left side, so you can see I can scroll through and I can pick by letter down through here. So once I have several contacts, I could scroll up or scroll down, and then that's what it looks like in portrait mode. So a little bit less screen friendly in portrait mode. Obviously the book, it does leave some black space up here on the top and up here on the bottom, or down here on the bottom, but you can see pretty easy, and easy to delete, easy to change things. Before we get into the meat of it, like photo booth, camera, FaceTime, and some of those big changes, let's take a look at the App Store, because there are also changes to this. And again, if you're coming from iOS on the iPhone, it's going to be dramatically different. But here's what the App Store looks like on the iPad 2. Again, not a change from the iPad 1, but just in general, it's tablet optimized. And you can see, especially looking at this versus what we've looked at a couple of weeks ago with the Motorola Zoom and the Honeycomb, the Android market on Honeycomb, you can see both are very tablet optimized. We'll scroll over and see what's hot, for example. Let's go to, iBooks is hot. Mad about hoops because March Madness. We'll search for, and you can see the category stuff comes up through here. You can search by category, release date, customer rating, price, device. We'll change the device to iPad, iPad only, and we'll search for Twitter, for example. Twitter. And so you can see it'll just bring them up in a different form. So it brought up iPhone apps. I guess it didn't filter by device. But it brought up iPad apps and iPhone apps. So you can see here, if I wanted, obviously I have the Twitter iPad app installed, but I can go through and let's see. We'll do iPad. iPad only. Now we can see all of the different iPad options. So Hootsuite, Twitter Later, Twitbird, etc., etc. And I can sort by category. So by release date, we'll see last 7 days. I doubt any of them have been. Okay, well, so there have been some in the past 7 days, in customer rating, etc. You get the idea, but just again, a layout that's very friendly for a 9.7 inch display and something that looks good in portrait and in landscape mode. While we're talking about that, let's take a look at the notes as well. Excuse me. And we'll start a new note because I want to give you an idea of what the keyboard's like. If you're coming from something, and a lot of this will be covered in the dogfight later in the week. I'm going to do a dogfight between the iPad 2 and the Motorola Zoom once it gets its update. But you'll see, some of this in the dogfight. But anyway, portrait, landscape, keyboard, they haven't changed. But you can see landscape keyboard obviously larger, and then the portrait one a little bit smaller. It's still a little bit hard because of the way this thing is shaped to, you look at something like that, and then you look at something like this. Well, even though it has a larger display, the shape and size is a little bit different. So you look at something like this, you're typing in portrait mode, you can say, hey there. All right, let's do our quick brown fox. The quick brown fox, just corrected to brown. The quick, you can see, very hard to do. I'm pushing in as hard as I can to try and reach those keys. Whereas it's pretty easy on the Motorola Zoom, very easy to touch thumbs without having to push all the way in. Whereas on this one, I exert the same amount, and that's about where I'm at. So, a little bit harder to type in portrait mode. Now, landscape, absolutely phenomenal keyboard. If you put it in landscape here, we'll do this. Went a little crazy with that. Let's try that again. The quick brown fox is a great companion. Companion. So you can see, very easy to type on, no lag whatsoever. Just like the iPhone, fantastic prediction when it's not correcting my mumbo jumbo to brown. We'll try it one more time. What do you want me to say? Well, you can't tell me what to say. Let's say we'll change it up. The quick brown skunk went until the coffee house. But you get the idea. Landscape keyboard, fantastic. You do have the option down here to remove the keyboard. If you don't, this is something I wish would come to iOS, at least in 4.2. I actually am one of the few I have not updated to 4.3 yet. So unless this is, I'm an idiot and this is a feature that comes in 4.3 on the iPhone, at least as of now it's not on the on iOS for phones. But I like this ability to tap down and get rid of the keyboard, because there are times where I just want to read the note and I don't want to type anything additional. And that way I can tap that and go down. Just to give you an idea of the symbols really quickly, the layout of those, you can see the numbers, you can see what it looks like here, and then that's what it looks like in landscape mode.